I will teach you exactly what you need to do to instantly start winning more chess games. One of my subscribers, David, also started using this and he gained more than 300 rating points in just a few weeks. So what I will teach you is a thinking system. So I will literally tell you how to think during your chess games, and if you follow this, you will win so many games. So first of all, for the opening, you can play any opening you want. I am personally a very big fan of d4 openings because I think they are very solid and it's hard to go wrong with them early on. While with, for example, pawn to e4, there are often way more tactics and it can be way more dangerous right from the beginning of the game. So here we are playing against a 2300 rated chessbot. He is using the Dutch defense against me with pawn to f5. That's fine, it doesn't really matter what our opponents plays because we will always be thinking about the same things. So what we do for the opening is we try to just keep things very simple. Here I won't be playing anything special in particular. I will just try to put my pawns in the center, develop my pieces and castle. That is the beginning of our game. I always recommend to just focus in the opening on using these three pawns. The E pawn, the D pawn and the C pawn. Just move these, and that's what we want to do in the beginning. Because these are the most important ones. These are the ones that are influencing the squares in the center of the board. And these also open up opportunities to develop our pieces. So we can just develop, for example, this. And I'm looking to see if we can maybe castle on the next move. Of course, every single move your opponent makes, this is something you need to learn. Every move they make, you need to pause. My plan was to just castle. I just wanted to castle. But if I ignore what my opponent is doing and I just play my moves instantly, I will always be in trouble because, for example, here, we just lose this pawn and our bishop is under attack straight away. So it's very important whenever your opponent makes a move that you forget about your own plan for a couple of seconds and you think, what is their move doing? What was the reason behind them playing this move? And the reason that they played this is because they are now attacking the pawn on c4. So you can even quickly solve this by just selecting their piece and just throwing arrows where it can go. For example, this, this, this. And that way I know, okay, they go here, they are protecting some things. Oh, this one, this is the important arrow. They are attacking one of my pawns. So I need to fix this. So the question is, how are we going to solve this? I think we can push pawn to b3 to protect it. But I have a rule in general that if it's not necessary to push a pawn, it's usually better to solve the problem by moving one of your pieces. Because pawn moves, you can never take them back, right? If you make a bad pawn move, you are stuck with it for the rest of the game. Because every move leaves behind weaknesses. So b3, not a bad move, but you are leaving behind some weaknesses. Can I solve this by moving a piece? I actually can. I can play knight to g5, which attacks the bishop. Bishop probably has to move, because if he takes my pawn, I take his bishop, and I also attack his queen. So he would always be losing if he was to go for that trade. So he is now moving the bishop back. I don't know what this opening is for black. It's pretty confusing. But yeah, it's not really our problem. We just want to play a good game of chess. So we are still in some trouble here. This is still happening. I was hoping we would have exchanged pieces, but it's not the case. This is still under attack. So I still need to solve it. Multiple ways I could do that. I could again move pawn to b3, but if I can solve it by moving a piece, that's usually better. I could also just, I think, solve it here by exchanging. If I just take in the center, doesn't really matter what he does to recapture, we just solve the problem quite easily. So that is what I will do here. Because I don't like moving my other pawns right now if it's not necessary. Okay, we are slowly getting into the middle game, so we can castle. They take and we recapture. And now we are in a middle game, and what I will teach you is especially important for the middle game. First, of course, we are being attacked. As always, watch out for their move. What is it doing? We have to go back to f3. That's the only move. Okay. And now we are in a middle game. And chess middle games can actually be quite simple if you just follow this one strategy. What we are going to do is we are going to use the CCTO strategy. It is my favorite chess strategy, and many of my subscribers have used this to gain hundreds of rating points. CCTO, meaning checks, captures, threats, and then if we don't have any of those, optimization. And that is how we need to think during a game, and it will help you to win so many games. So how do you use CCTO? How do you force yourself to use this and to win this? Well, every time it's your move, I would say once you have castled, usually I start using this, you have to think, do I have checks? We don't have a single check, so I can immediately forget about it. Do we have captures? Yes, we have a capture. We can capture this and we would be losing a bishop, but we still look at it because every check and capture might be a tactic. So that's why we look at this. Then the next question is, do we have a threat? So a threat is just a move in which we immediately threaten to either win material, do a checkmate, or maybe set up a tactical pattern that we have studied before. So I can already see that this and this pawn, these two are very weak. So if I can come up with a move that attacks one of them, that could potentially be considered a threat. A move like queen b3 might be considered, but of course here it would be a huge blunder because their bishop is still looking at that square. This pawn, I think maybe we could try to attack it with knight here. Probably wouldn't be the worst move, but moving your knight to the edge of the board like that can also lead to troubles, and it's easy to defend for my opponent as well if they just move the bishop. So if our threats don't really lead to anything, we won't play them. We will continue and we will see if we can go to the next phase, which is optimization. Optimization means look at your pieces, especially the ones you haven't used before, and see if you can improve them. And there are a bunch of moves. For example, rook e1, rook b1, bishop b2, queen c2, a bunch of different moves, and all of them would have been a good move here because we identified that we needed to go for an optimization move. Okay, they play queen to a5, so I always have to pause for a moment and think, what's going on? What is this piece doing? Well, it is actually attacking one of my pawns here, which is unprotected. So we just simply have to try to solve it. We can maybe play queen to c2, maybe bishop to b2, a bunch of different ways that we can solve it. I will choose this because I think we also have some type of attack going on here towards this side of the board. Okay. So again, a bunch of things happened. They castled. CCTO, checks, no. Captures, yes. We can give away a bishop for 2 pawns. Probably not the best idea, but it's good to identify that we have some tactics going on here. Threats, I don't think we have any simple threats, except maybe still the knight h4 idea, but they always solve it with bishop to f7. So I don't really like it. So yeah, I'm going to see if we can optimize. Well, I already optimized a bunch of pieces, right? This is working together, the rook is on the open file. I could maybe think about moving these, but you can also sometimes move your pawns to optimize, because your pawns can help to open up the position. So here I am thinking about this move, pawn to e4, because first of all, this opens up my bishop, might be useful. Then we have the choice, do we want to go to this side of the board or the other one? And also there are some things going on here in the center. We might get some captures, things will open up, my pieces are already looking in this direction, so we might get some type of trade going. So again, checks, no. Captures, yes. We have this capture, they can take here, and yeah, I think that looks okay. Actually, it's not a bad thing. And also a rook is opening up here on the e file, so this is also a slight improvement. Okay, checks, no. Captures, yes. We can still give away this piece, not a good idea. Threats, still the same. And in a real game, of course, in a rapid game, I don't recalculate those things, right? I just know that they don't really work right now, so I don't waste the time on them. So I am thinking about rook to b1. The only downside with rook to b1 is right now there are 2 pieces looking at this, so probably that is still dangerous for black, because taking this pawn, then the file opens up towards their king. So yeah, I'm not really certain that it's a good move, because if we look at it, actually, if they take, for example, I don't know, I feel like this is dangerous. They probably have to go back, and then they are also losing that pawn. One other simple thing is we still have this piece which hasn't moved yet, the bishop, and we can just put it on a better square, attack a little bit into our enemy's territory. So I think that looks perfectly fine. Okay, still, I don't really have to recalculate the checks captures, nothing really going on. We have one new capture which we need to think about, but it's again giving away a piece. So we are in the optimization step. I have used all of my pieces except one. We have one rook remaining in the corner, so this is my next piece that I will focus on improving. How can we improve it? Well, We could maybe move it, or I think we can also push this pawn, because as I already said, sometimes pushing pawns also helps, because they can open up lines of attack for your pieces. So this is just how I think the entire game, and this works to get you to 2000 rating. Of course, if you also recognize some tactical patterns so that you don't blunder, and also see your own opportunities during the game. Okay, now things are really opening up. Checks, still no checks, I think. That's crazy, because this king looks like it's in so much danger. Captures, yes, we have a bunch of them. Even some crazy captures like this, but even those crazy captures need to be considered, because they can often be a tactic. For example, here, ooh, the queen is under attack. Queen has to go, and then maybe there is something here. Actually, this doesn't work, because the knight would be capturing, but maybe this works, and it looks to me like everything is going to collapse here pretty soon. This king is in so much danger. So this capture might actually be a decent move. The only thing with that move is, I don't like playing it unless if you take the time to calculate every single line. Which I'm not going to do here. Because I think it's difficult to see into the future, and even if I calculate this, most of you would probably not be able to see the entire variation. Because I was just thinking about this, which is simple, thinking about a checkmate, but it doesn't work straight away, which means I have to capture here, and although this looks very dangerous for my opponent, it's hard to calculate. I think it works, but it's not super easy to see. And I always say that if you don't see the ending result of your sacrifice, usually it's better not to play it, because there are other ways to launch an attack as well. So I'm just going to play pawn to c4, because this also helps to open up more lines of attack towards the enemy king, and I don't risk potentially making a calculation mistake and then losing the game, because that would be the worst thing, miscalculating and then losing. That's what we want to avoid. And now this should be game over. First of all, we can win a queen. So that looks like a very simple option. Probably there are more things that we could do, like maybe this check I think could work, maybe this check could work. But if you see a very simple variation of which you are sure that it's going to eventually win material, you have to just go for it. There is no hesitation. We have to play this. And I think now we have a simple line with a capture. And then if they recapture, which they didn't do, but if they recapture, I think we would just be able to pin the queen again. And then they have to sack the queen, and this would be a very easy win with these bishops and also this queen working together. So they counterattack, but yeah, that's just terrible as well, because now they are just losing everything, and there should be a quite easy checkmate here. There should be an easy checkmate. So right here I'm looking at this sacrifice of the rook. That looks very promising, because sacrifices opening up the position are probably what we need. So I'm thinking about this. I think maybe also just queen a2, just going for the checkmate threat. There are a bunch of things hanging, a bunch of things we need to calculate. But since their king is in so much trouble, I think we will just have an easy checkmate. And this is just going to be checkmate if we play queen to a7. That's just a checkmate. So really try to use this during your next game, and please let me know in the comments on one of my videos how this went for you.